High-profile cases of sexual violence against women and girls in India seem to follow a similar trajectory. A brutal rape takes place, people protest, officials sometimes make changes in public admonishments, and then another horrific crime happens. Earlier this month, people rallied around the parents of a 9-year-old girl who was gang raped, allegedly murdered, and then cremated in New Delhi. 4 men, ranging in age from 48 to 63, were arrested, including a priest, for rape, murder, and destroying evidence, as well as committing crimes against a child and a caste-based crime. After the public outcry, the case was fast-tracked. Politicians visited with the parents, and the family was given compensation. And then, just 10 days later, a 6-year-old girl, also in Delhi, was allegedly raped by her neighbor and another man.
Every morning I open the newspaper and the first thing, or online, and the first thing I'm looking at reading rape stories.
How many of you have
It
ever
was another
faced
horrific
talking
case in
about this?
2012 that prompted women's
Raise your
rights
hand
activist
if you ever
Shruti
have.
Kapoor to create the nonprofit Sayfty. The highly publicized case involved the gang rape, murder, and mutilation of a 23-year-old woman on a private bus by 6 men. Widespread protests led to changes such as creating mandatory sentences for rape and making rape a crime that could be punishable by death. Investigations were also conducted into police procedures, and fast-track courts were created specifically to process sexual offenses. Despite all this, a 2017 poll found that Delhi was the worst megacity in the world for women when it came to sexual violence, rape, and harassment. But you wouldn't be able to tell that by looking at the number of reported rape cases. Across India, government data shows that there are only about 33,000 reports of rape of women and children in 2018. Compared to other nations, this number is low and suspect. What this likely shows is that rape and sexual assault is grossly underreported in India. In fact, one analysis by the website Mint shows that when comparing reported rapes to the National Family Health Survey, where surveyors asked 80,000 women questions on sexual and physical violence, it's estimated that as much as 99% of sexual violence cases go unreported. Enduring class and gender biases in India are at the root of its rape crisis.
India, unfortunately, has been one of those countries where crimes against women have always been high. And there are other South Asian countries where crimes against women are high. Even in the US, rape statistics are high. But it's also that just the kind of cases, they are so heart wrenching and so gut wrenching. Uh, uh, knowing about, okay, not only have you gang raped a child, but you have burned her, after gang raping, or you have pulled out the internal organs of, a person you have gang raped and then thrown her on the streets to die. Like, just that level of heinous crimes, I think, is what really brings all this global attention.
While the caste system has been banned in India for more than 70 years, it still permeates every aspect of society. By the end of 2020, the top 1% richest people in India owned 40.5% of the nation's wealth. Meanwhile, the bottom 50% of the population owns only 2.8% of the nation's wealth. And the divide has only grown during the COVID-19 pandemic. 9 billionaires in India have the same amount of wealth as the bottom 50% of the population, or about 650 million people.
Anybody who is above that caste, or who is not in this caste, is much superior in every and any sense you can think of. Just imagine if a man knew that because of the caste that he is in and the power that he is in, he can totally get away by raping that girl because she is of the lower caste, and nothing will happen, right? He knows that 100% that he can buy people off, and that he will never go into jail, fully knowing and fully understanding their privilege and knowing that they can get away with it.
The vast inequality in India contributes to a system where men of higher castes are able to commit rape and sexual assault without fear of reporting or punishment. Women who are of the Dalit or lower caste are often targeted by men of higher castes, and victims are bought, pressured, or threatened into silence. Rape has also been used as a tool to punish women of lower castes who step outside of caste and gender rules, and as a show of power over lower caste men. And yet, even among the privileged higher castes, gender inequality due to ingrained patriarchy remains.
Our society is really so patriarchal that women, unfortunately, are considered second class citizens. From a very early age, we are taught to serve. We are taught to serve the men in the household. When you get married, you serve your husband. Then you have children, you serve your children. And so you always are second class citizen. Like you are never given that priority. Culturally, women are expected to stay at home. Like you will see five men standing at the corner of a shop in India, just hanging out, doing nothing. All they're doing is drinking tea, chit chatting. You will never see a group of women hanging out, doing nothing on the streets in public spaces in India. That's not acceptable culturally. Women should feel safe going out in public space.
A WHO report found that worldwide, men raised in families with strongly patriarchal structures are also more likely to become violent, to rape, and to use sexual coercion against women, as well as to abuse their intimate partners, compared to men raised in homes that were more egalitarian. The reoccurring number of rapes in India have experts worried that people are becoming desensitized to the crimes. So what does India need to do to end its rape crisis?
The justice system needs to be reformed. Our police force needs to be gender sensitized. Judges need to be gender sensitized. We can't have judges who are still victim blaming. Our courts are so overburdened that you might not even get a hearing for many years.
Many are also angry that India's law doesn't address marital rape. Data from the National Family Health Survey also found that the average woman in India is 17 times more likely to face sexual violence from her husband than others.
तो कानून के अनुसार हमारे यहाँ ये कोई अपराध की श्रेणी में नहीं आता। ये आपका और आपकी बीवी का आपस का मामला है। ये आप अपना खुद नहीं।
India's penal code only criminalizes forced sex in marriages if the wife is under the age of 15.
This is so weird, so absurd. Thousands of men, they can rape their wives and go unpunished.
The only option for a victim of marital rape is to file a civil case against their attacker. The Penal Code also only defines rape as a crime perpetrated by men on female victims. Lawmakers have tried but have not succeeded in changing rape laws in India to be gender neutral. There's no data on male victims of rape in India, but a 2007 government study of more than 12,000 children showed that 53% of children faced one or more forms of sexual abuse, and of that group, the majority, or 53%, were boys. Outside of what needs to change within the system, Kapoor says people's minds also need to change.
In schools and education, we need to start talking about consent culture and respecting women and girls from a very young age. A lot of men and boys grow up with so much privilege that accepting a no is hard for them because, they are the boys of the family. They can get whatever it is that they want. And there's no concept of consent culture in our culture. That needs to change. Sex education needs to be made a part. There is so much hush around sex and not talk about sex, but I believe these are things that we need to do at an educational level to make our children a little bit more sensitized and more respectful towards each other.
Her organization has created an app to teach people to know what to do and where to go when a sexual assault happens. They host weekly Twitter chats on sexual violence with experts and offer self-defense workshops to women. They also go into schools to teach boys and girls as young as 5 what a safe and unsafe touch is. And they work with older students to discuss gender stereotypes and consent. Despite all the news reports, things are changing, Kapoor said.
You are seeing visible change. It's just that it is so slow and the crimes keep happening at such a continuous rate that you feel like there's no change happening, but that's not true. Now we are seeing a lot more conversations happening because people are, they don't want to stay silent about these issues. Women especially, they are more aware, they are a little bit better empowered, and they have social media. 20 years ago we didn't have social media to talk about it. Now if a rape case happens, suddenly you will see it trending on Twitter, and young people especially are using it to call out our government, call out our system, a corrupt system, or anything that's not working well. You instantly see young people speaking about it.